Hi, my name is Parcsen, and today we want to examine the different causes of divorce, its impact on adults and children, as well as how you can escape divorce. I am joined by Ruby Lee to talk about how you can escape divorce. Ruby is a qualified marital therapist who has her own counseling practice called Life Affinity, as well as a parenting coach. She and her husband, Philip, has been married for 29 years and have raised 2 kids together. So let's bring on Ruby. And hi, Ruby.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on the program today and talking to us and sharing with us your expertise. Now, you've been a counselor. How long have you been a counselor?
For almost 8 years, I've been a counselor and a marital therapist. I've always been, I've been trained as a family therapist.
Wonderful. Okay. So you must have had many clients who came to you because they were having difficulties in their marriage. What are some of the reasons that you think that marriage break down and fail?
Well, I guess we were just looking at the statistics that's just been released by Department of Statistics about divorce. And I'll like just to highlight that before we explore what happens, how did it come to this the divorce? Let's look at when majority of the people get divorced. So looking at this slide, you can see that the largest share of divorces are when they're married from 5 to 9 years. And also to highlight to you that the median age of couples who are divorced for female is about 39 years old, male is 43. Okay, so with these statistics, I'd just like to highlight that this is a period of time where couples go through a lot of transitions. They got married, they probably settled with their new place, and then they start to have children. Yeah. And the most common thing I hear from couples when they come for therapy is that they say they don't know each other anymore. So it's quite a root issue. They just discover they don't know each other. And as we explore further, I discovered that quite a big sample of them have been so focused with their child rearing. So they become like individuals in a marriage. They don't spend enough time together. Also, the career are also starting to mature. So there's also ambition, to do well in their job, or even just providing for a living, especially those who are struggling to maintain the household expenses. Yeah. So the distancing happened. Yeah.
What do you think they meant by not knowing each other anymore?
They don't talk to one another. So as a result, they end up with quarrels because they expect each other to know each other's stress, each other's expectations, their ideals about what they hope in their life. But because they don't have enough time talking about each other, they talk about more about, let's say, the child, or talk about all their, how to make financial needs met. The outcome is they don't know each other. Yeah, there's no fun anymore.
So in other words, they basically put their marriage on kind of a cruise control mode, autopilot, and not give deliberate, intentional attention and effort into, strengthening it and maintaining.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So all the time I spent, in individual lives, and at the same time, that's also the age where they have to handle the parents, their own parents. So we can understand time is really stretched, and also being very practical in Singapore, we focus on our daily needs rather than trying to spend like
bread and butter issues. Yes, right.
Yes, cultivating relationship, and build the emotional bond. Yeah, so that's why I think couples are saying we don't know each other anymore. It's sad because when they got married, they knew each other so well before they got married. That's usually the case. Yeah.
Yeah, the dating courtship days are fun. We are like peacocks, trying to impress one another. Once you're married, you don't see the need to do that as much anymore, and you just kind of take things for granted, right? Yeah. So what do you tell these couples? What are some of the advice you give them so that they can improve their marriage?
Okay, let's look at the next slide, so that'll be easier. So I'm sharing with you 3 main tips that normally I guide couples. So the first tip is really to be a team. Yeah, because when they go through life transitions, like having a first kid, it's usually very critical time. And both are struggling. So rather than struggling alone, they do it together, be a team, and that strengthens the bond and the relationship. And also, if let's say they meet any career or challenges with their in-laws or relationship, they are also a team, and that helps. So being a team is talk to one another, support each other, be empathic. Yeah. Second one will be they have to dialogue about conflicts, talk it out, and also be open to share expectations. Expectations will change over time. So that's the second one, talk it out. Third one is support each other. Find out more about what challenges each one is having, what life dreams that they hope to achieve. And that will also help in difficult dialogue, especially if, let's say, one wants to be in a regional job that will do a lot of travel, or one decides to be a housewife because they felt the needs of the children important. Yeah, so it's good to talk about it and support each other in their dreams. So these are the 3 tips to help.
Wonderful.
Marriage.
Yeah, I think the expectations, the thing about expectations is very important also. One of the things I learned is the worst kind of expectations are not unrealistic expectations, but the worst kind of expectations are actually unspoken expectations. You know what I mean? When you expect something from your spouse, but you don't tell your spouse anything, you don't give him or her a clue. And when your spouse doesn't meet your expectations, you get angry and frustrated, and upset about it. And it shows.
And that's a slippery road. Yeah, that's a very slippery road, because if your expectations are unmet for a long time, you may turn outwards. So you no longer see eye to eye, you turn outwards. You may even find someone else to confide in, an opposite sex. And that's where another cause of divorce is also extramarital affairs. Yeah. So it's important to be talking to each other, especially if we felt that your core needs are not met. You have expectation is not met, and just talk about it and work it out.
Well, is it that simple? Just talk about it. I mean, I know many couples, they said, no, we've talked about it, we've tried everything, and it just doesn't work. So they feel that they've tried everything, and therefore they say, well, it looks like this relationship is not meant, this marriage is not meant to be. There's only one option left, and that's to end it. So what do you say to couples like this?
Yeah, so I've encountered many couples like that. They have individually decided that that's the death of the marriage, because they have already tried speaking, and it become escalating conflict, become very toxic and stressful for themselves and for the children too, and for the environment. So they decided that, hey, then let's just end it. But the thing is that if they could at least see a counselor, a marital therapist, anyone out there, myself, they will realize that there is much more than the issue that they're seeing, because there will be root issues that could be resolved by having an expert who talk it out, help them understand that, because when they're angry, they will not be able to hear each other, or they are already have a lens, a trigger. It's not easy to talk about it. So having a professional to talk about it will help them to come to some understanding. And we realize that it is not the outward confrontation or words they say. It is all the inner needs that cannot get uncovered, because it's just too difficult to talk about it. And all the anger, all the criticisms will come out, and all the frustration will come out, even before they can come to what really is the core need of each other. So when we work with couples who uncover their core needs, they become more understanding to each other. And that's only when they can be calm. So in a therapy session, we will help them to manage their emotions and professionally, and help them come to the point of being able to express their core need. And then the spouse can try to meet that core need. And that's where, and we also ask them to think about what happens if the marriage fails, what happened to their children as well, if they have children.
I think counseling is people might have a misunderstanding of what actually the function of counseling is. They think that they're going there to be psychoanalyzed, and maybe that's what they don't want to happen to them. But what you just said is very important, is to give them that conducive and the right kind of environment where they can actually sort things out between the two of them. And if I'm not wrong, most of the conversation is actually between the couple. You're just there to be a facilitator, and sometimes if you have to, be a referee. Am I right?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, especially when emotionally charged, yeah, and it will be because there'll be a lot of old hurts and old triggers. So we help them to kind of come to a point where they can be more regulated, their emotions not flooded. And then because when you're flooded, your mind is really just about feeling to protect yourself. You can't really share what you really want and what you need. So you may go into a fight mode, you see, if you are overwhelmed with emotions. And that's
Correct.
what we do now.
Yeah. I read some statistics somewhere. I think this is pretty well known that couples wait about 6 years from the time that they encounter some, problems in their marriage. And I'm not talking about the occasional squabbles, but they feel that, wow, this is getting serious. They wait about 6 years before they actually reach out, and some don't even reach out. Some just they reach out to a lawyer.
Yeah.
How soon should a couple reach out?
Yeah, in fact, it will have a better outcome. So let's look at statistics again. It mentioned that married for 5 to 9 years is where majority of the marriage go into divorce. So the 5 to 9 years marriage is a critical time. So you mentioned they wait till 6 years. So it fits exactly within the statistics that we see in Singapore, right? So that means the earlier they can come for counselling. So the earlier they can get help. So I have seen couples who come because right after the first child, they realize that already things are getting very hard. And I realized those who start to come earlier will have a better chance of working it through than those who have been married like, in the 10 years, the 9 years, or even more, 20 years. You can imagine there'll be a lot of things to unpack. And there'll be a lot of bitterness, a lot of triggers that you see of each other that has been there for a long, long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and because many things happen, which you take it as if they're confirmation that indeed nothing is going to work, and because we've tried everything, so some say it's confirmation bias, so you're more convinced that the only way out is to get a divorce.
Yeah, that's true.
So divorce also it's a very painful experience. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah.
Can you share with us what are some of the negative impacts that divorce have on an adult? Let's start with an adult.
Yeah. So according to research, it seems that those who are divorced compared to their peers who are staying married, they have more medical visits, they have lower satisfaction about their lives. Some of them may even have depression, and it affects their mortality rate as well. So it increased the mortality rate. So it doesn't look very good to be divorced. If you look at it, it affects every aspect of yourself, and you'll be highly stressed, dealing with how to handle co-parenting. You may have to share resources, and also being alone. So we, human are made to have relationship. So when the relationship doesn't get resolved, doesn't have closure, because a lot of divorces, the relationship doesn't get closure as well. It just continues. Yeah. So that's the impact on an adult. Yeah. So a lot of
children.
Yeah. So it's not easy as an adult to be divorced because of all these factors that hurts your emotional, your psychological, and even your financial as well, and of course your relationships.
So what kind of impact does it have on children?
Well, for children, it's really tough because children do not really understand divorce, whether they are young or they are teens or youth even. Some children feel that they are the cause of the divorce sometimes because they misunderstand and parents don't explain. So they end up feeling like they are at fault. So they self-blame. Okay, and with self-blame, it can cause them to have depression. Okay, affects their esteem. It also makes them very angry. Angry about their life because it's beyond their control. If you think of it, parental divorce is not the children could choose. They can't choose it. Yeah, and even sense of abandonment. And some of these kids will start to have behavioral issues, right? And I mentioned depression, some of the psychological issues, anxiety, and so forth. And it's definitely very tough for a kid. Yeah, to think that maybe they are the cause and maybe the parents don't love them at all. That's why divorce is happening. Yeah. So it's so important that if the inevitable happen, that during counseling, even if the couple are coming for counseling, not to reconcile, they are fixated about divorce already because they felt it is the way. At least come to try and have amicable kind of closure, so that they can have amicable relationship, and that will help in their children to settle down later after the divorce. Yeah. So yeah.
Thankfully, many marriages have been rescued from the brink of divorce and are doing well.
Yeah.
But not all are so fortunate. So what does parenting look like after divorce? Because after all, in the mind of the child, his or her biological parents, birth parents, are the only parents that he or she knows and recognizes.
Yeah. So it's important post divorce. Before even we talk about post-divorce parenting, we need to address before the divorce, like what I said earlier, there are 3 key factors. So I'll share some of the tips as well. The 3 key factors will be the child still needs to feel that he has both parents' love. That's the most important thing to remember. In order for the child to feel that he has both the parents' love, it then has to start before even the parents tell the child that they are divorced. So in order to do that, parents need to be at least have some amicable closure, and it's usually through counseling that they can have amicable closure. Because usually couple end up very angry and they will not be able to talk to one another. They do not want even to talk to one another. They appear in the lawyer's office at different timing, and that's going to be very tough in the divorce process. And the other thing is, once they are able to seek counseling, have some sort of amicable closure, they can then convey a consistent reason for divorce to their children. That means they talk things out and decide what is the best way to tell the children. And usually parents will say that it is because the two of them, have become very difficult to live with one another, and assure the children it's not their fault. It's all to do between the two of them. And they break the news together so that the children know that both see the children as important to them and not abandoning them. And that's a very key message, because children tend to feel abandoned when their parents are divorced. And at the same time, both being present, they can listen with empathy, especially for teenage children. They may even not accept the divorce. They may insist that parents will stay married. So parents have to be there to just listen and give the child time to ask questions and also to settle their emotions and to assure them that things will be normal. So the next point will be assurance of living arrangement. Children need some routine and normalcy, or else it will be highly anxiety living. So usually we'll advise couples to allow the one parent to stay in the same house and not to change the living arrangement. The child can continue to stay in his own room and his own routine. Okay, so that will be before the divorce. And post-divorce, it's important to have consistent parenting style between the two, so that the child will not be confused when they are spending time with each parent. Comes to whether homework, behavior, hopes and dreams about the children's future. And also important to have routine schedule for time with each parent, so that, like what I said earlier, the kids will feel that both parents are not abandoning. Both parents are still caring and loving him or her as much as before. And also then would be a consistent schedule, help them to have some stability in their life. And finally, number 8, parents are not hostile. So parents are not continuing the fight beyond the divorce and using the kids as the collateral to get the kid to side one parent versus another. So that's a very important thing. So that points back again, it's important to just have a chat, even if you feel it's time to divorce. Yeah, and that chat can just be with a therapist, more to just facilitate all these plans and all these arrangements, and to just close whatever raw stuff that is still, feeling very bitter or angry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone knows that consistency is kind of the pillar, the main tenet of parenting. That you need to be consistent, and when divorce happens, that stability and sense of security is lost as far as the child is concerned. And I think if I can summarize what you just said is try to maintain that consistency as much as possible, whether it's in terms of schedules, routines, the way of living, and the kind of contact the child has with both parents and the parenting styles. I think that's another key here, which I kind of observe is when parents divorce, especially when it's kind of pretty hostile, if I may use the word, acrimonious. They end up no longer cooperating with each other, but competing against each other, trying to show the child who is the better parent and talking bad about the other one.
Yeah. So it's bad. It's bad to have that sort of triangulation. There's a technical word that we use when it's like two teams, and the child is torn between both parents, which is horrible because the child loves both parents. The fight between mother and father is their own business. It's got nothing to do with the child. So the child shouldn't have the better. That's correct.
That's right.
Yeah. So give the child normalcy, reduce his anxiety, have some routine, and that will give him security because he needs to feel securely attached to both parents. Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of questions. Let me see if you can try to answer the questions that our audience have. Okay. So the first one is from Uma, who says that what if one individual is trying their best to make things better, but the other party just refuses to budge or talk things out at all?
Okay, yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah, even one persuading the other to come for counselling is a big issue, and my clients normally ask me how to do that. Yeah, so I would say is that in the end, it is all about if you can't do it on your own, okay, is to persuade to come to see someone like a counselor. Explain to the other party, that seeing a counselor is not to further the fight between both of you, but it's to really have a third party who can see exactly what's going on. And that's about, your intention. If you intend to stay married, right, then there is importance to talk things out and work things out, because not talking will just get stuck and more pain and in the long run. Yeah. So it's like you have a medical condition. Do you let it fester and rot and both suffer? Because even the one who refused to talk about it is suffering as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. There's another question that says how best to encourage the individual to press on when his or her partner has a third party. I guess this is referring to extramarital affairs.
It's not easy. Yeah. When your partner has a third party. Well, I guess if you want to stay in this relationship and there's a third party, it's very crowded, and definitely you'll feel very insecure and a lot of anxiety, and definitely there'll be a lot of trust issues between two of them. Yeah, because you can never be assured who your partner love more or care more about. So really, I would say is that it is not easy to encourage the individual to press on. It's more, what does the individual want in the end? Yeah. If you want to press on, then be prepared that I think it will have to be done professionally. Yeah, because I have seen some client who wants to continue their marriage even though they know there's a third party out there, and they struggle with a lot of trust issues, and their spouse will not turn up for counseling. So I have journeyed with them individually, help them to find what is their motivation then to continue staying married. It can be financial. It can be this person is not that bad after all. It could be the children. So there are many reasons. So the motivation comes from all these factors. It's very personal. Hope that answers. Yeah.
Yeah, not an easy question to answer, but I think in most cases, an extramarital affair is a sign that the marriage had been in trouble already, and I guess needs, very deep needs have not been adequately met, and therefore one party, gets kind of drawn away from the marital relationship. So I think if you look at it that way, it means, there's a deeper issue rather than not just the extramarital affair, but, the quality of the relationship before that, leading up to the extramarital affair.
Yeah, so it's important that the party who has committed extramarital affair know that it is harming the relationship. Yeah, because it gets too crowded and it gets very confusing about trust. So when trust is broken, there'll be a lot of suspicion. So it's not easy to live that kind of double life. Yeah. Yeah. So like what you said, the root issue is important. It requires both parties to come together and willing to work on it. Yeah.
Well, you have shared many very useful insights today, and I am very appreciative. Thank you, Ruby, for helping us understand divorce better. And I really hope that the couples who are having marital difficulties will not delay in reaching out to either you or people like you. Let me put up your website again. Please reach out to Ruby. She's a very nice person. She would love to help you in any way that she can. There is always hope, so don't give up. So once again, Ruby, thank you very much and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Parcsen, for having me on this chat. And all the best to everyone. And so you can reach out to me if you have any questions, Yeah, that's my website. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll be back in a short while for the final thoughts. Divorce is not just a personal matter. It is not even just a matter between two people. It is a social problem because it leads to the disintegration of families, raising healthy and happy individuals in future. There are thousands of websites that tell divorcing parents how they can make divorce easier on their kids. That's useful. But do you realize that the damage has already been done? The parents may have just decided to get divorced, but their marriage has been on the rocks for years prior to that. Daily quarrels and fights traumatize children, creating fear and anxiety in them. This is a form of child abuse, like it or not. Assuming that a child is involved in every divorce, we in Singapore now have additional 7,623 children of divorce in our nation. A majority of them sad, scared, fatherless, and scarred for life. Divorce is like two parents in an airplane with their child. When they learn that the airplane is doomed and is about to crash, they grab the two remaining parachutes and strap them on their backs. And just as they are about to jump out of the plane, they turn to their child and say, "You're going to be okay, honey." Let's preserve marriage to protect our children. Learn how to have a satisfying and lasting marriage. Learn the 7 principles for making your marriage work. Go to fathers.com.sg/7pp and sign up for the workshop. I look forward to seeing you there. My name is Parcsen, and I thank you for joining me on this program.